Welcome back to my channel. The forbidden door has been kicked wide open in the most violent, unpredictable, industry-shaking way imaginable, and what unfolded has already sent shockwaves across every corner of the wrestling world. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Jon Moxley, all three in the same ring at the same time, stood united once again, unleashing an attack on Monday Night Raw that felt less like a wrestling moment and more like the collapse of every barrier that once separated companies, loyalties, and the past from the present. And because what you're about to hear changes everything you thought you knew about professional wrestling, make sure you're subscribed right now, because this is only the beginning of a new era, an era where nothing is off limits and no alliance is impossible. In the aftermath of Survivor Series, accusations were flying everywhere. Fans whispered about backstage agendas, about invisible corporate hands pulling strings, about secret deals, and interpromotional sabotage. Across social media and inside arenas, the tension felt electric, like everyone was waiting for the next huge detonation, the next betrayal, the next power shift. But no one, absolutely no one, anticipated the magnitude of what was about to hit Monday Night Raw. The air inside the arena was heavy, the kind of atmosphere where you can feel something brewing even before the first entrance theme hits. In a single moment that shattered divides between past and present, between WWE and AEW, between blood brotherhood and bitter professional separation, the most dominant trio of the modern era were formed not to reminisce about their origins, not to celebrate a reunion, but to wage war. Pure, unrestrained vengeance fueled this resurrection. The driving force behind all this chaos was one man whose ambition finally spiraled beyond control: Paul Heyman. His self-styled Vision faction, even as it cracked under its own weight internally, had become a corrosive weapon. It tore through rosters, manipulated outcomes, twisted loyalties, and introduced an element of unpredictability that threatened the entire structure of WWE programming. Heyman used strategy like poison, slipping it quietly into every scenario, turning rising stars against veterans and veterans against the system. His influence was rotting the foundation of Raw. Roman Reigns understood that to fight a strategist with no moral code, he would have to break the one rule he had held sacred for years. He could no longer operate within the boundaries of brand allegiances. He could no longer rely on alliances shaped by contracts and corporate borders. He needed the only two men who ever walked side by side with him as equals. He needed the two men who had once helped him tear through entire divisions, who had stood shoulder to shoulder with him through chaos, dominance, betrayal, and redemption. Roman Reigns needed to resurrect the most unstoppable force the industry had seen in the last decade. He needed to reform the Shield. Heyman was in the ring that night, standing beside Bron Breakker, gloating about how his Vision era had already begun reshaping WWE. He bragged with that trademark smugness, soaking in the booze and acting as though he had already won the war before it even began. Breakker stood beside him like a weapon ready to be unleashed. And then every light in the arena shut off at once. Total darkness. The crowd erupted in screaming anticipation as the Titantron flickered back to life with a single, cold spotlight illuminating the stage. Then the first sound hit, the unmistakable drumbeat of Roman Reigns' entrance. The tribal chief walked out slowly, radiating the kind of confidence that only comes from knowing you have planned something unimaginable. He stood tall, centered in that spotlight, and glared toward the ring. Then another theme hit, the wild, chaotic guitar riff of Seth freaking Rollins. The visionary stepped out to Roman's left, smirking with the gleam of someone who loves chaos just as much as he loves justice. The crowd exploded again, shaking the building, but nothing could have prepared them for what came next. A third theme hit, a gritty, raw theme that fans from a different company instantly recognized. Jon Moxley, the AEW renegade, walked out to Roman's right, pacing like a caged animal ready to tear through steel. And there they were, the three men, shoulder to shoulder, no distance between them, standing as one unit at the top of the ramp. A sight believed impossible. A sight fans had debated for years. A sight that broke every unwritten rule of wrestling separation. Wordlessly, without theatrics, they marched toward the ring together. Inside, Heyman's entire demeanor collapsed. His smug bravado vanished, replaced with the wide-eyed panic of a man watching the return of the very force he once manipulated, controlled, and betrayed. Breakker tried to step forward, ready to defend his mentor, but he didn't last more than seconds. Roman struck with a spear that nearly cut Breakker in half. Rollins delivered a blistering stomp that rattled the canvas. Moxley, with that ruthless intensity fans know too well, cinched in a vicious choke that left Breakker gasping. And then their attention turned to Heyman. The wise man backed himself into a corner, realizing there was no escape, no deal to negotiate, no strategy to save him. Roman took the microphone from the trembling Heyman, staring him down as the arena fell silent. "You wanted a vision," Roman growled, his voice cold and cutting through the silence like a blade. "This is the only vision that matters." And then he finished with a line destined to be replayed 1,000 times. "The only ones who get to break up the Shield are us." The trio lifted Heyman onto their shoulders with eerie precision, positioning him perfectly over the announce table. The crowd rose to their feet as memories of their most iconic destruction filled the arena. In perfect unison, for the first time in years, they delivered a triple powerbomb that sent Heyman crashing through the table in an explosion of splinters and chaos. The arena roared. Social media erupted. AEW fans, WWE fans, casual viewers, hardcore historians. No one had expected to see this moment in their lifetime. You have just witnessed the moment of the decade. What happened tonight doesn't just shake up Raw. It shakes the core of both major wrestling promotions and blows open possibilities nobody ever believed were possible. If you're not subscribed right now, you are genuinely missing the revolution as it unfolds. The hounds of justice have returned, and their targets are everything and everyone who ever played a role in tearing them apart. The hunt has officially begun, and the entire wrestling world is now waiting to see who they strike next. The aftermath of that triple powerbomb rippled far beyond the arena, shaking the entire industry like a meteor had crashed into the landscape of professional wrestling. Backstage, the locker room was in complete disarray, with some superstars scrambling to understand how Jon Moxley was even allowed inside the building, let alone permitted to step into a WWE ring. Producers, referees, agents, and executives huddled in tense discussions while security personnel raced to secure exits, unsure if more EW talent might appear at any moment. Cameras caught glimpses of chaos, whispers turning into arguments, wrestlers demanding answers, staff trying to analyze whether this was a sanctioned move, a breach of contract, or the beginning of a corporate disaster. The energy backstage felt radioactive. What had happened in the ring wasn't.